All right, welcome folks. Mr. Henry Vargas here, the unorthodox disciple. Today we're going to be talking about the seals of Revelation. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and watch the first two videos in this series, which is the general message of Revelations and the sequence of events in the book of Revelations. Right now we're going to talk about specifically the seals of Revelations, okay? So, I got my notes right here. Give me a second. It says, when it comes to the book of Revelations, there are a lot of interpretations and schools of thoughts about this book. Most traditional resources will confidently tell you what the second, third, and fourth horses from the four seals are, or the four horsemen, but I want to focus primarily on the first one. So traditional views of the second, third, and fourth seals, right, or the second, third, and fourth horsemen. These are traditionally considered times of war, famine, and pestilence, which I agree with because it's pretty straightforward in the word. Now, the traditional views on the first seal is there's two main school of thoughts, which is one that it's Jesus coming. Some think it's the first horseman is Jesus coming forth during this period, but I don't necessarily believe that. They believe he comes. Others say it's a false prophet that sets up a false type of peace, right? But in my intimacy with my Father, creator of heaven and earth, neither of these is really what he taught. He's really what came to surface. So now, what is the unorthodox view on the first seal? So this is what came as a result of a weeks-long, in-depth study every day, get into intimacy with my Father, as he took me every day deeper and deeper into this revelation with this book. Right, so and every day it was blowing my mind farther, more and more away. So I took it piece by piece and didn't rush because he'd been telling me to read it for a while, and so I know that it was something that was very important. So here we go. Okay, I'm going to give you just a couple bullet points, and then I'm going to explain why I believe so. Okay, so if you haven't yet done so, if you're unfamiliar with the book we're talking about is in the book of Revelations. In the first seal, says there's a rider comes on a pale horse, riding with he has a bow, and he gets a crown, and he goes forth conquering and to conquer. Right, so that's what the scripture says. So here's what I've understood. So the white horse represents, Yahweh's peace and his mercy, right? So there's going to be a time where it represents a time of God's peace and mercy, right? Now the rider's bow, because one thing that's very particular about this horseman is that he has a bow versus having a sword or any other weapon, which the other horsemen traditionally have. So he has a bow, right, which represents a more strategic warfare that I believe will be used to open the way of the gospel and give the opportunity for the diligent children of Yahweh to prosper in preparation for the rest of the coming tribulations. And I'm going to get to the details in a second why I believe this, but this is just going through different aspects, different parts of that first seal. The third thing is it says a crown is given to the rider, right? And so I believe this suggests that this leader who will open the doors of every nation to the gospel, right? I believe he's going to receive the crown of life, even if you and I don't necessarily like his methodologies or his strategies, which, by the way, are given of God, right? Because that's kind of what he's being a vessel, a tool for God's will, right? So that's what I believe the crown of life represents. So whether you like it or not, this individual is going to get the crown of life. Next piece says that he went forth conquering, right? Which I believe is what he did and what he accomplished during his time of reign, during his established time, right? And again, we're talking about the horsemen. And then it says to conquer. And then at the end of the scripture, at that verse, which is, I believe this is what his divine assignment was to conquer these nations as it did. So what, right? Now you might be wondering, okay, well, so what, Henry? Well, so I really felt the urge to share this because with some things that have been going on, I really think we could be already in this time or getting real close to it. And I'm going to read from my notes here, and then I'll kind of give a general idea. It says, I happen to believe that we just entered into this period and that the first seal has been opened. Now, this is not fully confirmed. This is just something that I believe, that I think is from what I'm seeing. Now, it might not be, and it's not necessarily so, but it's a lot of things happening for the first time. So why do I say this? Because I believe President Trump is the rider on the white horse, or he could be the rider on the white horse. I don't believe it's Jesus, because Jesus comes on the scene later on a white horse with a sword, not the pale horse with a bow. So you might be saying, whoa, Henry, what do you mean President Trump, this, that, and the other? Well, hold your horses, okay? President Trump has done more for the church than any other past president. He has a spiritual council that he actually takes advice from. So from that side, it seems that he fits the description of an entrepreneur turned politician, which is certainly strategic to me, because as you know, you can't grow up in politics and be ethical. So it says, add to that how he is going forth conquering the different countries through financial warfare. Again, it's very strategic. And it says China has paid the U.S. billions of dollars in the last 3 years, which previously China was getting close to owning the U.S. Again, very strategic. Thanks to those billions of dollars China paid, we've been able to help, or the U.S. has been able to help the other countries and do what it has done in these past few months. Again, very strategic. Add to that, thanks to his leadership, the U.S. is not just freshly loaded up with stockpiles of emergency materials, but unlike anything before, the U.S. is positioned to help other nations, right? Even those considered enemy states. And before I had taken this note, this was probably about a month, 2 months ago, maybe more. But just last week, or I believe 2 weeks ago, with the ceasefire in the Middle East that President Trump has established, which it's not a deal yet, not signed concrete, but there was at least a normalizing of conversations, which is a huge first step, right? So I would say if we see in the middle of this first year, when President gets reelected, if we see that signature happening, get your lights on really quick, okay? So now what? And again, this may not be the time, but even if it is, what I'm about to, or even if it's not, what I'm about to share with you is completely applicable, because if you truly want to be able to make an impact in the world for good and for the cause and for the kingdom, you absolutely need what I'm going to be talking about next. So what do you need to do now, right? Now that you understand this, that I've shared with you this understanding, right? So like I said, I believe we've just begun this time, and honestly, I don't know how long it's going to last. And even if we haven't started it, we don't know the opportunity, the economy, and everything. Even though it seems to have been broken because of the COVID thing, there's going to be, because of everything he's doing correctly before God, I believe there is going to be a V recovery, and there's going to be something that's never been heard of before, because he's doing things that have never been done before. So with that said, I believe it'll be at least to the end of President Trump, at least to the end of his term, that we'll have peace before the incoming regime comes in and maybe wants to create conflict again. But so here's where I'm going, right? So that's more than enough time. This to the end of this president's term, his next term, to grow your wealth through mergers and acquisitions. Okay, so specifically, what I want to talk about now is what's called mergers and acquisitions. It's not new. It's something it's a model that's 100 years old. That all the big companies, these huge founding companies that you've heard that make all these histories, it's the strategy they use. Everything from Andrew Carnegie and Henry Ford all the way up to Apple and Microsoft, right? So they all use the same strategy. If you're reading this and if you're watching this video, you're probably already a believer, and as such, I want to encourage you. It's not an easy world in the jungles of big boy business, but if you can stay focused, right, ignore the voices that won't understand, and make the commitment to truly work out your faith, right? Our reward, after all, is based on our actions, not salvation, but our reward. Right, you'll be in a position to really help people and share the gospel in those difficult days of tribulation that are coming, that are sure to come. Again, salvation is a free gift from God, right, through Jesus, and our reward, however, in this current life and in the next, is based on our actions and productivity. So, final notes. Until we see the populations reduce, the Earth's population reduced by 25% instantly by war, famine, and pestilence, animal attacks, then our rapture hasn't passed. When space starts to fall on the Earth, then our rapture has arrived. So guys, I really wanted to share this with you because I think it's important, and even if we're not at the time at the beginning of the seal, which many indications is point to yes, but even if it's not, you got to get your wealth up. You got to get ready, because we're not going to be able to partake of the system of the enemy when things are down, right? So we need to be able to establish ourselves now so we can build up that network to help those who didn't prepare themselves. As a believer, as a follower of Christ, it is our responsibility. See, a man who is unprepared is an irresponsible man. So it is our responsibility to be prepared economically, emotionally, to lead, right, to know how to make the sacrifice and the decisions they need to make, and that particularly means learning that the decisions emotions don't dictate your decisions. Your emotions need to be dictated by the decisions needed to be taken. So with that said, guys, I hope this was a blessing, and I hope if you like it, tell me what you think. And peace and blessings, my brother.